Left behind. The fluorescent lights of Pete's roadside diner buzzed overhead, casting a harsh glow on Olivia Walsh's tear-stained face. Outside, the late September rain tapped against the windows like impatient fingers. She pressed her palms against her swollen belly, feeling the gentle movement of her baby girl, 7 months along and already a fighter. "Can I get you anything else, honey?" The waitress, Doris, according to her name tag, asked, eyeing Olivia with a mixture of concern and pity that made her stomach clench. "I'm fine, thank you," Olivia whispered, though nothing was fine. 3 hours ago, Trevor had driven her out here, 40 miles from their apartment in Cedar Creek, supposedly for their special place, the lookout point where they'd first kissed. Instead, they'd had the same argument they'd been having since the pregnancy test turned positive. "I thought we were on the same page about this," Trevor had said, gripping the steering wheel. "About waiting, building our careers first." "Life doesn't always follow our plans," Olivia had replied, trying to keep her voice steady. "But we can do this, Trev. Together." His laugh had been cold. "I'm not ready to be anybody's father." When they'd stopped at the diner for Olivia to use the restroom, Trevor had simply driven off, leaving behind only a text. "Need space. Figure things out." Her phone now sat dead in her purse. The $20 she had wouldn't get her far, and the diner was closing in 15 minutes. The nearest bus station was 10 miles away. Olivia's hand trembled as she paid her bill. As a kindergarten teacher, she was used to solving problems, creating order from chaos. But this, being abandoned in the middle of nowhere by the man who'd promised to love her, had shattered her carefully constructed world. "You sure there's nobody I can call for you?" Doris asked, glancing at Olivia's belly. "My sister lives 2 hours away," Olivia said. "And my phone's dead." "You can use our phone. Boss won't mind." But Jessica was at a conference in Chicago. Her parents had retired to Arizona. And friends, real friends, had become scarce since Trevor had gradually isolated her over their 2 years together. "I'll figure something out," Olivia said, forcing a smile. Outside, she sat on a bench under the diner's awning, watching headlights appear and disappear on the highway, each one a reminder that everyone else had somewhere to go. Someone waiting. The baby kicked, as if to remind her she wasn't completely alone. A faded blue pickup truck pulled into the lot, its headlights illuminating the rain. Olivia didn't pay much attention until the driver's door opened and a tall figure stepped out, pulling up his jacket collar against the rain. Something about his walk, the set of his shoulders, triggered a memory. When he stepped into the light, Olivia's breath caught. "Marcus?" He turned, surprise washing over his features. Olivia Walsh." Marcus Delgado had been her chemistry lab partner senior year, quiet, brilliant, with a dry sense of humor that had made even balancing equations bearable. They'd been good friends until graduation scattered everyone to different universities. "What are you—" His eyes dropped to her belly, then darted around the empty parking lot. "Are you okay? Is someone with you?" The genuine concern in his voice cracked something inside her. Tears welled up again. "Not anymore," she managed to say. Marcus's expression darkened as understanding dawned. He moved closer, shielding her from the rain with his jacket. "Let me help," he said simply. And in that moment, those 3 words felt like the first real thing anyone had said to her in months. Shelter from the storm. The windshield wipers fought against the increasingly heavy downpour as Marcus's truck wound through the darkened country roads. Olivia sat with her hands folded protectively over her belly, stealing glances at her unexpected rescuer. Time had been kind to Marcus Delgado. The lanky teenager with perpetually ink-stained fingers had grown into a man with quiet confidence. A thin scar now traced his left jawline, and fine lines crinkled at the corners of his eyes when he concentrated on the road. "I still can't believe you're here," Olivia said, breaking the silence. "Last I heard, you were somewhere in Alaska?" Marcus nodded. "I've been working as a wildlife photographer, specializing in endangered species habitats." A small smile played at his lips. "Remember how you used to tease me about that ancient camera I carried everywhere?" "The one you refused to trade for digital," Olivia recalled, warmth spreading through her at the memory. "You said film captures something digital can't." "Still believe that," he said. though I've compromised on equipment since then. The truck turned onto a gravel road that disappeared into thick pine forest. Moments later, a cabin emerged from the darkness, its windows glowing with warm light. "It's my uncle's place," Marcus explained as he helped her up the porch steps. "He's letting me stay while I'm in town for a job interview at the Wildlife Conservation Center." Inside, the cabin was modest but comfortable, all wood and worn leather, with nature photographs covering the walls. Olivia recognized Marcus's distinctive style in each one. "These are incredible," she murmured, studying a particularly striking image of a wolf silhouetted against a sunrise. "Thanks." There was a hint of self-consciousness in his voice. "Make yourself at home. I'll get some tea going." As Marcus moved around the kitchen, Olivia noticed the careful precision in his movements. "So what brought you back to Cedar Creek after all these years?" The question seemed to catch him off guard. He paused before answering. "Needed a change. After Ellie died, Alaska had too many memories." "Ellie? My fiancée?" His voice softened. 3 years ago. Car accident on an icy road." Olivia's hand flew to her mouth. "Marcus, I'm so sorry." He nodded, acknowledging her sympathy without dwelling on it. "What about you? Teaching kindergarten now, right? I saw something on Facebook a while back." "Yes, at Pinewood Elementary," she confirmed, grateful for the subject change. "I love it, though I'm on leave now, obviously." As they settled on the couch with steaming mugs, Olivia found herself telling Marcus everything: how she'd met Trevor at a friend's wedding, their whirlwind romance, and how things had gradually changed once they moved in together. How his charm had slowly given way to criticism, then indifference, and finally abandonment. "I should have seen it coming," she concluded, staring into her tea. "There were signs." "Don't do that," Marcus said gently. "What he did isn't on you." The baby kicked then, a strong movement that made Olivia gasp. Without thinking, she reached for Marcus's hand and placed it on her belly. His eyes widened at the sensation. "That's amazing," he whispered, awe replacing the earlier sadness in his expression. Later, after showing her to the guest room with its patchwork quilt and shelves of well-worn books, Marcus hesitated at the door. "Olivia, I'm sorry this happened to you, but I'm glad it was me who found you tonight." After he left, Olivia sat on the edge of the bed, emotions swirling. For months, she'd felt invisible in her own life, reduced to an inconvenience in Trevor's plans. But tonight, in this cabin with rain pattering against the roof, she felt seen again. She texted her sister Jessica from Marcus's phone, briefly explaining the situation and promising to call tomorrow. Then, exhausted by the day's emotional marathon, she fell into the deepest sleep she'd had in months. Dawn broke with surprising clarity, the storm having washed away to reveal a crisp autumn morning. Olivia woke to the smell of coffee and the sound of gentle movements in the kitchen. For a disorienting moment, she thought she was back home, but then yesterday's events rushed back. She found Marcus at the stove making pancakes. He'd already set out prenatal vitamins beside a glass of orange juice. "I ran to the store this morning," he explained, noticing her surprised expression. "My sister-in-law was pregnant last year. I remembered some of the basics." Such a simple kindness, yet it brought tears to her eyes. Hormones, she told herself, but knew it was more than that. It was the recognition that some people still knew how to care without keeping score. "What happens now?" Marcus asked as they ate breakfast. Olivia squared her shoulders. "Now I start figuring out how to be a single mom." Marcus nodded, respect clear in his eyes. "And I'll help however I can." Outside, sunlight filtered through the pines, creating patterns on the cabin floor, complex, beautiful, and utterly unplanned, much like the path that had led her here. New foundations. "Are you absolutely sure about this?" Jessica asked, her voice echoing in the nearly empty apartment as she set down another box labeled kitchen. At 7 months pregnant, Olivia wasn't supposed to be lifting anything heavier than her prenatal vitamins, which left her sister doing most of the work. "For the 20th time, yes," Olivia replied, arranging framed photos on a small bookshelf. "Trevor doesn't get to kick me out of my life and then waltz back in when he feels guilty." It had been 3 weeks since the night at the diner. 3 weeks of staying at Jessica's place while searching for an affordable apartment. 3 weeks of ignoring Trevor's increasingly desperate texts and calls. And 3 weeks of daily coffee with Marcus. "Speaking of which," Jessica said, wiping sweat from her forehead, "when is your knight in a dusty pickup truck arriving to help?" "He's not my—" Olivia began, but was interrupted by a knock at the door. Marcus stood in the hallway holding a potted plant with cheerful yellow flowers and a bag from the local hardware store. "Housewarming," he explained, handing her the plant. "And baby-proofing supplies. The apartment looks great." As Marcus installed cabinet locks and outlet covers, Jessica pulled Olivia into the bedroom under the pretense of organizing clothes. "Okay, spill it," Jessica demanded in a whisper. "What's going on with you two? And don't say nothing, because nobody drives across town every day to bring a pregnant woman pastries just because they were lab partners a decade ago." "It's not like that," Olivia protested, though her cheeks warmed. "Marcus is just being kind. Kind is holding a door open. That man is building you a crib." "He's a friend when I really needed one," Olivia insisted. "Besides, he's still healing from losing his fiancée." Jessica's expression softened. "Just because you're both carrying scars doesn't mean you can't find something good together." Before Olivia could respond, her phone buzzed with a text. "Trevor, outside your building. We need to talk, please." Olivia's heart raced. "He's here," she whispered, showing Jessica the message. "Want me to send him packing?" Jessica offered, already rolling up her sleeves. "No," Olivia said, surprising herself with her steadiness. "I should face him." Downstairs, Trevor leaned against his sleek black car, looking exactly as she remembered. Handsome in that deliberate way that once made her stomach flutter. Now she felt nothing but a hollow ache. "You look good, Liv," he said, his smile tentative. "Pregnancy suits you." "What do you want, Trevor?" His smile faltered. "To apologize. What I did was unforgivable." "Yes, it was," she agreed, one hand resting on her belly. "I panicked," he continued. "But I've had time to think. I want to make things right. Be there for you and the baby." Once, those were the words she'd prayed to hear. Now they rang hollow. "The night you left me," Olivia said quietly, "I sat there wondering what I'd done wrong, how I could fix it. But there was nothing to fix, Trevor. You showed me exactly who you are." Trevor's expression hardened. "So that's it? One mistake and you're done?" "It wasn't a mistake. It was a choice." Olivia took a deep breath. "And now I'm making mine." As if on cue, Marcus emerged from the building carrying flattened cardboard boxes. He froze upon seeing Trevor, immediately understanding the situation. Trevor's eyes darted between them, comprehension and anger flashing across his face. "Seriously? It took you, 5 minutes to replace me?" "You don't get to do that," Olivia said firmly. "You don't get to abandon me and then act jealous. I'm the father of your child." "Biology doesn't make you a father," she replied. "Actions do." Later that evening, after Jessica had gone home and Marcus had finished installing a ceiling fan in the nursery, they sat on Olivia's small balcony watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of pink and gold. "You were amazing today," Marcus said, his voice soft with admiration. Olivia shrugged, embarrassed by the praise. "I just told the truth." "That takes courage." He hesitated. "Listen, I need to tell you something. I got the job at the conservation center." "Marcus, that's wonderful." "It means I'm staying in Cedar Creek," he continued, his eyes meeting hers. "And I was hoping. That is, I'd like to keep being part of your life. Both of your lives, if you want." The question hung between them, delicate and full of possibility. "I'd like that very much," Olivia answered, her hand finding his in the gathering twilight. As they sat in comfortable silence, Olivia realized something had shifted inside her. For so long, she'd been preparing for motherhood alone, shoulders bent under the weight of fear and uncertainty. Now, watching the first stars appear, she felt a new sensation taking root alongside her growing child, hope, labor of love. Olivia woke to a sharp pain that made her gasp. Outside her window, lightning flashed, briefly illuminating her bedroom before plunging it back into darkness. The digital clock on her nightstand was blank. Power outage. Another contraction gripped her stronger than the first. No, 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 she whispered, reaching for her phone. Not tonight. Not during the storm. She was only 35 weeks along. Too early. As she fumbled for her phone, another pain washed over her, stealing her breath. The contractions were coming too quickly. Something was wrong. With shaking fingers, she called Marcus. It was 2:17 a.m. Olivia? His voice was instantly alert despite the hour. What's wrong? The baby, she managed between breaths. Coming early. Power's out. Contractions 5 minutes apart. I'm on my way. Don't move. Thunder crashed as Olivia struggled to her feet, gathering the hospital bag she'd packed weeks ago. Another contraction doubled her over. When she straightened, she noticed wetness running down her legs. Please be okay, she whispered to her unborn daughter. Please wait for Marcus. As if in answer, headlights swept across her living room window. Never had she been so grateful for the fact that Marcus lived just 10 minutes away. He appeared at her door looking rumpled but determined, rain dripping from his hair. His eyes widened at her appearance. Your water broke, he said, instantly taking her bag. Let's go. The drive to Cedar Creek Memorial should have taken 15 minutes. But fallen trees and flooded roads forced detours that stretched their journey into an agonizing 40 minutes. Each bump sent pain shooting through Olivia's body. Marcus drove with white-knuckled concentration, occasionally reaching across to squeeze her hand. We're almost there, he assured her, though worry lined his face. You're doing great, Liv. Just hang on. When they finally reached the hospital, Marcus didn't bother with the parking lot. He pulled right up to the emergency entrance, helped Olivia out, and shouted for help. Within moments, she was whisked away to labor and delivery. Family only beyond this point, a nurse told Marcus as they reached the double doors. Olivia's grip on his hand tightened. He is family, she said with such conviction that the nurse simply nodded and let him through. The next few hours blurred into a haze of pain, medical terms, and frightening moments. The baby's heartbeat dropped twice. An oxygen mask was placed over Olivia's face. A doctor mentioned terms like fetal distress and emergency C-section. Through it all, Marcus never left her side. He wiped her brow, let her crush his fingers during contractions, and spoke calm words of encouragement even when his eyes betrayed his fear. I can't do this, Olivia sobbed after a particularly brutal contraction. Yes, you can, Marcus insisted, his forehead pressed against hers. You're the strongest person I know, Olivia Walsh, and I'll be right here every second. As dawn broke, the storm outside began to subside, and Olivia's daughter decided she was ready to meet the world. With one final tremendous push, Lily Rose Walsh entered the world at 6:42 a.m., small but perfect, with a powerful set of lungs that announced her arrival to the entire maternity ward. She's beautiful, Marcus whispered, tears streaming unashamedly down his face as the nurses placed the tiny swaddled bundle in Olivia's arms. Just like her mother. Exhausted but radiant, Olivia looked from her daughter's face to Marcus's, seeing in both a future she never could have imagined 6 months ago. Thank you, she said, her voice hoarse from exertion. For everything. Later that afternoon, as Olivia dozed with Lily sleeping peacefully in the bassinet beside her, Marcus stepped out to call Jessica with the news. When he returned, his expression had changed. Trevor's here, he said quietly. In the waiting room. Someone must have called him. Olivia felt a flutter of anxiety, but it was quickly replaced by a surprising calm. Perhaps it was the clarity that came with bringing new life into the world. But suddenly Trevor's presence seemed like nothing more than a footnote in a much larger story. Send him in, she said. I'd rather deal with this now. When Trevor entered, his eyes immediately went to the sleeping infant. For a moment, something like wonder crossed his face. Then it was replaced by the familiar mask of charm as he presented a bouquet of expensive-looking roses. Congratulations, he said, his voice deliberately soft. She's perfect, Liv. Her name is Lily, Olivia replied. Trevor nodded, then glanced pointedly at Marcus, who stood by the window. Could we have a moment alone? Before Olivia could answer, the baby stirred and began to fuss. Without hesitation, Marcus crossed to the bassinet, gently lifted Lily and placed her in Olivia's arms with a practiced ease that spoke of the many prenatal classes they'd attended together. Full circle, the Cedar Creek Community Garden was ablaze with color on that bright June afternoon. 3 months after Lily's birth, Olivia watched from beneath a flowering dogwood tree as Marcus knelt in the soil, carefully planting sunflower seeds with a group of enthusiastic kindergartners from her class. "Miss Walsh, look how deep I dug my hole," called Emma, one of her most exuberant students. "Perfect depth, Emma," Olivia called back, adjusting Lily in her baby carrier. The infant gazed around with wide, curious eyes, taking in the vibrant scene of the garden fundraiser. It had been Olivia's idea to organize the event, Grow a Reader, they called it, to raise money for new books for Pinewood Elementary's library. What had started as a small project had blossomed into a community celebration, with local businesses donating refreshments and families turning out in droves. "Your teacher is quite remarkable," said a voice beside her. Olivia turned to find Marcus's boss from the Conservation Center, Dr. Eleanor Chen, smiling at her. "I've worked with many passionate people," Eleanor continued, "but few have Marcus's gift for connecting with children. The workshop he did on wildlife habitats was the highlight of our education program last month." Warmth spread through Olivia's chest as she watched Marcus patiently show a little boy how to pat the soil gently around his seed. "He has a gift for connecting with everyone," Olivia agreed softly. Eleanor's eyes twinkled knowingly. "Especially certain kindergarten teachers and their daughters. I've noticed." Before Olivia could respond, Jessica appeared with cups of lemonade, saving her from having to acknowledge the blush creeping up her cheeks. "So," Jessica said after Eleanor moved on, "have you two finally admitted you're madly in love? Or are we still pretending this is just an elaborate friendship?" "Jess!" Olivia protested, though without much conviction. "What?" "It's been 3 months of him coming over every evening after work. He built the man a nursery mural, Liv, with woodland creatures that have scientifically accurate markings, for heaven's sake." "It's complicated," Olivia sighed. "We both have baggage." "Everyone has baggage," Jessica countered. "The question is whether you want to keep carrying it alone or help each other with the load." As the afternoon waned, families began to disperse. Olivia was tallying the donation jar when a familiar black car pulled into the parking lot. Her stomach tightened as Trevor stepped out, dressed impeccably as always. Their interactions over the past months had been strictly related to his visitation schedule, which, despite his initial bluster, amounted to brief visits twice a month. Today wasn't one of the agreed days. "Olivia," he called, striding toward her with purpose. "We need to talk." Marcus, who had been helping load leftover supplies into cars, immediately moved to her side. His presence was protective without being possessive. "Whatever you need to say can wait for our scheduled meeting," Olivia said calmly. Though her heart raced, Trevor's eyes flickered to Marcus, then to Lily sleeping peacefully in her carrier. "I got a job offer in Seattle. I'm taking it." Olivia waited, sensing there was more. "I won't be able to keep up the visitation schedule," he continued. "And honestly, I think that might be for the best. For everyone." The words hung in the air between them. "What exactly are you saying, Trevor?" Olivia asked, her voice steady. He ran a hand through his perfectly styled hair. "I'm saying I'm willing to sign away my parental rights, if that's what you want." Olivia felt Marcus stiffen beside her, but he remained silent, allowing this to be her moment. "Her decision, what I want," she said slowly, "is for Lily to be surrounded by people who truly love her and will be consistent in her life. If you don't feel you can be that person, then yes, legally formalizing that would be best." Something like relief crossed Trevor's face, quickly replaced by a more composed expression. "My lawyer will be in touch." As he turned to leave, Olivia called after him. "Trevor?" He paused. "I hope you find what you're looking for." He gave a small nod before walking away. Olivia watched him go, surprised to find she felt nothing but a gentle release, the final untangling of a knot that had bound her for too long. Later that evening, as the summer sun lingered on the horizon, Olivia and Marcus sat on her apartment balcony. Lily slept soundly in her nursery, the baby monitor quietly relaying her peaceful breaths. "Are you okay?" Marcus asked, his fingers lightly entwined with hers. "About Trevor's decision?" "Surprisingly, yes," Olivia admitted. "It feels like the final page of a chapter that needed to end." Marcus nodded, understanding in his eyes. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment before he spoke again. "I've been thinking about chapters ending and beginning," he said, his voice taking on an unusual nervousness, about how sometimes the story takes an unexpected turn and leads you exactly where you need to be. He turned to face her fully, taking both her hands in his. "These past months with you and Lily, they've been the happiest of my life. After Ellie died, I never thought I'd feel this way again. But you reminded me that the heart is capable of healing, of growing, of loving again." Tears welled in Olivia's eyes as she recognized the direction of his words. "I'm not trying to replace anyone in Lily's life," Marcus continued, "but I love her as if she were my own. And Olivia, I am completely, utterly in love with you." "Marcus," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion, "I don't expect an answer right now," he said quickly. "I know this is a lot, and you need time." She silenced him with a kiss, their first, gentle at first, then deepening with the certainty of her feelings. "I don't need time," she murmured against his lips. "I've known since that night in the rain. You didn't just pick me up when I was stranded. You showed me I was worthy of being chosen every single day." From the nursery, Lily let out a small cry. Together they rose to tend to her, moving with the synchronized rhythm of two people who had found their way home to each other. In the soft glow of the nursery lamp, as Marcus cradled Lily with natural ease and love shining in his eyes, Olivia understood that family wasn't always what you planned or expected. Sometimes it found you when you least expected it, on a rainy night at a roadside diner, in the eyes of a man who saw your worth when you'd forgotten it yourself. And sometimes, against all odds, it was even better than the family you'd imagined.